Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unravel one of the absolute most fascinating detective stories in the entire history of Egypt. You know, when we think of ancient Egypt, our minds instantly go straight to the mighty pharaohs, right? We picture the gleaming golden masks, the sprawling empires, and of course, those towering monuments they supposedly left behind. But what if I told you the history we all think we know might actually be missing a massive piece? What if the most mysterious structures on Earth were built by a completely different civilization? Today we're looking at the evidence of a really enigmatic ancient people, a group who possessed these literally mind-bending architectural secrets, had zero modern research centers, yet somehow built things that still leave today's most brilliant minds absolutely baffled.
It all starts with this one central lingering mystery. Who actually lived in Egypt before the pharaohs? You see, the Great Pyramids are widely considered the ultimate unsolved enigma of the ancient world. They're structural marvels that, frankly, just defy logic. But here's the real kicker. Despite all of our advanced modern technology, the ground-penetrating radar, the decades of intense archaeological digging, zero blueprints for these massive structures have ever been found. I mean, not a single sketch, not one instructional text detailing how they were built. The construction methods were completely obscured, seemingly by design, almost as if to ensure no one could figure out their true origins.
To truly grasp how staggering this mystery is, just look at this number: 1 centimeter. When modern experts go out and measure these ancient pyramids, they find that across these massive, sprawling bases, there isn't even a 1 centimeter error in elevation. Let's be real, most modern contractors can't even get your kitchen cabinets that level. It's absolute, flawless precision. And this level of mastery wasn't just applied to carving stone. These were the exact same ancient experts who understood the human body so perfectly that they could successfully mummify it to last for literally thousands of years. It really forces us to ask, how on earth did they do it? What kind of technology were they using way back then, in a time long before modern machinery?
Section 1. The Clue: Unlocking the Papyrus.
For the longest time, these questions were just met with myths or, fun science fiction stories. But human curiosity is relentless. Every single time historians and archaeologists go digging into the history of Egypt, they're searching for that one crucial clue, that one bizarre, out-of-place document that can completely rewrite our understanding of the timeline. And occasionally, they actually find it. The big breakthrough came in the form of an incredibly rare papyrus. In 1820, this peculiar document was finally unearthed from the sands of Egypt, and by 1824, it had made its way across the Mediterranean and was put on display in a museum in Italy. It's actually pretty fascinating to think about. Every civilization, no matter how secretive, usually leaves something behind because they want future generations to know they existed. And this ancient document, sitting quietly in an Italian museum, was practically eager to share its millennia-old secrets with anyone who could finally decipher it.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the official name of the document, the Royal Canon of Turan. Written entirely in the ancient Egyptian language, this definitely wasn't just a collection of myths or poetry. It was a highly formal, meticulously kept historical record. When experts finally managed to translate the ancient text, they realized pretty quickly that they were looking at something that would fundamentally alter the historical landscape.
Just look at the massive scale of what the Royal Canon of Turin actually contains. We're talking about a highly detailed document spanning roughly 160 pages. And within those pages, it systematically catalogs 30 distinct dynasties and records the reigns of 300 different pharaohs, along with all the major events that went down during their rule. It's an incredibly rare, invaluable primary source that gives us a direct window into the deep past. But its most shocking revelation actually had nothing to do with those 300 pharaohs it listed. It was all about what came before them.
Section 2. The Reveal: Pre-Pharaonic Rulers. As researchers dug deeper into the translated text, they hit a massive turning point. The papyrus directly pointed to the existence of a highly advanced civilization that reigned over Egypt long before the very first famous pharaoh ever sat on a throne. It completely shattered the conventional timeline, revealing a society that possessed profound secrets of science and art, completely separate from those later Egyptian dynasties we're all so familiar with. The text even gave them a name: the Shemsu-Hor. Translated, this means the followers of Horus. Now, Horus was a major ancient deity, widely recognized as the god of war and the sky, and the Shemsu-Hor were his fiercely devoted followers. But they were way more than just some religious sect. They were a civilization of extraordinary ability, holding incredibly deep knowledge of the world around them. According to the source material, their level of advancement was so profound that it honestly begs the question if even we in our modern era have caught up to the progress they'd made back then.
We also know that their legacy echoed down through the centuries. Ancient texts indicate that long after the Shemsu-Hor were gone, The fifth dynasty of Egyptian pharaohs still spoke of this mysterious group. But they didn't just call them their predecessors. They referred to them by a highly reverent, very specific title, the Shining Ones. That right there clearly shows the immense respect and perhaps even awe that the later pharaohs had for the capabilities and the sheer majesty of the civilization that truly built the foundations of Egypt.
Section 3. A different rule, committees and sciences. And this brilliantly illustrates what makes the Shamsuhor so captivating. It isn't just that they existed earlier, but how radically different they were from our traditional understanding of ancient Egyptian society. They didn't just build differently, they thought differently, they governed differently, and they explored the natural world in ways that seem entirely out of place for their time. Unlike the rigid, dictatorial monarchy of the later pharaohs, where one ruler has absolute, unquestioned power over the entire land, the Shamsuhor operated in a completely different way. According to the texts, their governance was consultative. They operated on a committee-based system where every single major decision or action regarding Egypt required mutual consultation among all its members. It was a highly organized collaborative society, which might actually explain how they were able to execute such complex, multi-generational projects.
This highly collaborative approach clearly fostered some incredible intellectual leaps. Archaeologists and historians analyzing their legacy point to a staggering mastery of scientific disciplines. We are talking about advanced knowledge in physics, complex mathematics, and deep astronomy. They understood exactly how to harness the laws of nature to execute construction projects that basically should have been physically impossible for the era. The evidence left behind and the sheer precision of the pyramids strongly suggests they had a working knowledge of space and gravity that allowed them to manipulate massive stones with total ease.
In fact, their knowledge was so incredibly out of place for ancient history that it has sparked some wildly different theories. As one Egyptian archaeologist noted, their deep grasp of these complex sciences is really the only logical explanation for why their timeless constructions still stand perfectly intact today. Now, some journalists and historians go even further with this. They theorize that this profound mastery of space and gravity might even suggest the Shamsuhor were a civilization with extraterrestrial origins, or at the very least, heavily influenced by outside forces. While that remains purely speculative, it definitely highlights just how inexplicably advanced the Shining Ones truly were.
Section 4. The Disappearance, a Stolen Legacy.
So, the crucial point is, this brings us to the most dramatic part of the mystery. If the Shamsuhor were so advanced, so collaborative, and so incredibly powerful, where on earth did they go? How does a civilization capable of such flawless engineering simply vanish without a trace, leaving behind no blueprints, no machines, and only a few cryptic references in a Turin papyrus? Well, according to a prominent journalist who has deeply researched the history of Egypt, the leading theory points to a massive, cataclysmic natural disaster. The idea is that a catastrophic event struck the Earth, entirely wiping out the Shamsuhor civilization in one fell swoop. The incredible architectural marvels they built, however, survived the disaster. So when the later dynasties, the pharaohs we know today, eventually came to power, they found these awe-inspiring monuments already standing. Having absolutely no way to replicate them, they simply claimed these impossible structures as their own, effectively stealing the legacy of the Shamsuhor. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought to ponder today. Archaeologists are still out there in the sands, eagerly trying to peel back the layers of this mystery, searching for the true methods and those missing blueprints. But considering their less than 1 centimeter precision, their mastery of physics, and their perfect societal collaboration, are we, in our advanced modern era, with all of our computers and heavy machinery, still just trying to catch up to the secrets of the Shamsuhor? The true identity of the Shining Ones remains one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history you think you know.